Hey, welcome to my first video ever. This is going to be a learning experience for both of us, so bear with me. I'm not too big on bloopers or deleting things and trying to make this perfect, so if you're looking for perfection, this isn't the video you need to be watching, but hopefully we can reach as many people as possible and share this new journey with you guys and invite you on this new journey. So my name is Jacob Glare. Was the name I was given at birth. 32 years old, was born and raised in Alaska. I'm currently residing in Tennessee. Currently have a beautiful house, although I'm in the market to sell it. Have two beautiful kids. I've always considered myself to be a pretty happy person, to be, someone who looks after others and does their best on a daily basis to try to help others and do what I feel is right in the morals that I've tried to live by in myself, and through parts of where I was raised and parts of experiences and how I learned from that's developed me for who I am today. All that aside, about 5-6 months ago maybe, my eyes my eyes were open like I was just born before for the first time. So I've always had kind of the entrepreneur spirit and have always looked for ways to not only make money but doing what I'm passionate about. I currently own a fencing business. I've owned survival websites, handyman businesses, you name it. I've tried to do it, but I've always had the mindset of thinking about a group of things that I love to do. Like, let's say you list 10 things that you love doing. I've always went about it the wrong way. I've always listed those 10 things and then put those things aside for researching those 10 things and then finding which one of those made the most amount of money. So it went from looking at what I love doing and not giving a shit about the money to basing those decisions off of money. And I've had my first spiritual awakening. That's where this journey all started, and my first calling as far as what I know I was truly meant for in this life. And I've always known I was meant for something bigger than myself, and I've always searched and looked for that, but could never find it no matter how hard I tried. But the thing about it was, like they say, when you stop searching, that's when the things come to you, and that's exactly what happened. So something I've also been interested in most of my life is creating new things and building new things and inventing new things, and it kind of, as I got older, led me into thinking that I wanted to create patents and sell them for a living. And I was very passionate about it. I've always got a lot of ideas on outside the box and good ideas. So during that last portion, about 6 months ago, I was doing a lot of research into Nikola Tesla. Some of you may know who that is. A lot of you probably don't, because they have almost deleted him from our history books, even though he should be one of the #1 people up there with Einstein. And the more I researched him, not just as his inventions and what he did, but who he was as a person and what he stood for and his core beliefs and his ideas, and not just about inventing things but life itself, and that there's something out there that's bigger than all of us. And I feel like everybody at some point in their life either ponders that question or looks for it or tries to make sense of it all. And so that's part of what led me to this spiritual awakening. Through my research on Nikola Tesla, I discovered that You could call it meditation, you could call it like a more natural form of meditation, but he was talking about going into this trance where he could see his inventions or things that he hadn't even thought of yet that would come to him, and he could see them in complete detail. Einstein had the same experiences. So if you're a scientific kind of person, there's just a couple that you can relate to. There's a lot of stories out there, but at the same time, both of them also talked about how, everything is unified. Everything is one. Everything is togetherness. And before I get any further, I am not going against anybody's religion. I am not saying it is right or wrong. That's something that you have to figure out on your own journey. And some of this stuff that I talk about can be interpreted as the same thing as another religion or belief, with just different ways of labeling things, if that makes sense. So, anyways, back to talking about Nikola Tesla and inventing. And so the more I, researched him and really thought about it and pondered it, the more researching I did. And I started researching meditation. And probably for about a good month and a half, I wanted to try meditation to see if it would help me with this goal that I had in mind of creating patents and selling them. And for about a month and a half, I would put it off. I would want to do it, but I would come up with excuses as to why I didn't do it or why I shouldn't do it. And that went on for about a month and a half to finally, along with some personal stuff that was going on in my life, I just needed to find something that was, going to show me some peace of mind and bliss. Because, and I'll discuss this later on in this video, but my whole life I've taken on people's emotions and reactions and opinions and ideas and made them, allowed them to mold me as a person. And so I tried meditation for the first time. It was relaxing, but I didn't get any like wham in your face kind of feelings from it. I tried it a couple more times, and on the third time I tried it, I've never been. I was raised where you're tough. I was in the military before, and it's I tried playing that tough guy role. I didn't let any of my emotions show, so there was very little that I would cry about. Pretty much the only thing that would get me there would be my kids and my family. But this third time I tried meditating, I went into this state of pure bliss and knowing that there was something bigger than myself, which I knew was there, but I've always had the scientific mind of I've got to feel something to know it's real instead of just believing or having faith or trusting. And I was raised in the church, and even after that, as a teenager and later years, I went to church on my own free will and got really involved, and along the way I dropped out of that kind of lifestyle. And so I had this, and it's a lot of you'll find out that a lot of these things I try to explain, when I'm talking about being in a meditative state or transcending or whatever label you want to put on it, that it's something that's hard to explain because it's your spirituality and your spirit that's getting these feelings from this space in time that our physical minds and our senses and our how we were raised and what we were taught to believe, it goes against, not necessarily it goes against all that, but there's just nothing that you've had an experience with that can relate. And the best thing I can say as far as relation to this goes is I started getting kind of like when your hand or foot goes numb, that tingling sensation, but it wasn't aggravating or it didn't feel bad in any way. It was just complete bliss and silence and beauty unlike anything I had ever experienced before. And so that's pretty much probably where I'd say my spiritual journey just took off. And since then, I was getting on YouTube and looking up guided meditations, and I stumbled across binary tones. I'm sure a lot of you probably know what those are. Grounding and earthing, which is basically just allowing your bare skin to come in contact with the earth, because that's one thing that Nikola Tesla talked about, was the earth being a positive charge, and exactly how lightning is formed. The negative charges that build up in the ionosphere get to be so much that they discharge, and positive and negative attract, so they make their way to the ground. And so because of all that, in my research in Tesla, and having a voltmeter and being able to test these things, I could see for myself in that scientific mindset that yes, this shit is real, and I wanted to look more into it, especially after having the experience of this meditative state that I had came into. And so I just started doing a bunch of researching and experimenting, on different things, different meditations. A lot of times I'd get on YouTube and look through maybe 20 guided meditations, and if they didn't resonate with me, I'd go to the next one until I found one that worked, and kind of build off those experiences to try to find, how I could amplify this to get the most out of trying to do this again, and better that experience than the first time. And so I would feel it a little bit, but looking back, it was all because I just didn't have an understanding of it all. And that's all part of the journey. You learn, you grow. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not easy. It takes persistence. It takes passion, and it is truly your decision, and your decision alone. It's not for anybody else's to make. So you kind of have to adjust, if you're kind of like me, to thinking a little more along the lines of what works best for you. And just like anything else in life, there's just because one thing or anything works good for one person, you take another person at random from society, and it's going to be completely different for them, and how they learn and how it affects them, and so on and so forth. So one day I was on my way to work on a fence job, and I never had a calling in my life. And when people always told me they had a calling, I'm like, yeah, okay, this person is just wanting to try something different as far as careers go or jobs go. I didn't get the sense of what a calling truly was, because I had never experienced it before. So I had gotten my first calling, and it was amazing, because ever since I discovered and started this spiritual journey, and you will find out for yourself, or have already found out for yourself if you're already on it, that everything just lays out in front of you. I mean, it's so amazing how when we take our mind off this physical reality that everybody thinks matters in this world, and other people's opinions, even though it's not their lives to live, we base our decisions off of what they think. And we turn ourselves into this robot based off society and and thought processes that may or may not be going on in somebody else's head. I mean, all it is an illusion. And so I had this calling, and I don't even know how to explain it. It was just a thought popped in my head, and it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I realized that I wanted to, because I've always wanted to do something that helps people, that this was it. I wanted to be able to teach meditation, and so you know, the experiences that it gives you, and the enlightenment and the awakening and the spirituality of it. Because like I said, I was never a crier unless it came to my kids, and it had, even still had to be